You probably won't guess that this is in Goa. It's in fact on the outskirts of the Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary. And it's a very, very interesting point in the Western Ghats because it's the transition from the southern to the northern Western Ghats. The southern Western Ghats are all about the high peaks of the Nilgiris and the big mountains. And the northern Western Ghats, which are mostly in Maharashtra and Goa, are a lot about the plateaus. And I am on one such laterite plateau. It is very contrasting to see an open plateau made of laterite rocks in the middle of rainforest, which is so dense. And the plateau has its own species of flora and fauna. For example, a number of frogs are only found on these plateaus and not in the forest. Saw-scaled vipers are mostly found here. My friend and guide Parag is now looking for snakes and frogs. Looking forward to everything you can see on this trail. Super exciting and hoping the weather holds.
So yeah, plateaus, as far as I'm concerned, are little misunderstood habitats. Everybody is fascinated about forests, about wetlands, and so on and so forth. But this, plateaus are considered to be degraded lands, which is a bit of an issue. But if you look at it from the biodiversity point of view, you will realize that the kind of diversity has, and in different seasons, they hold more diversity than probably a good prime rainforest. What is unique is that this diversity changes with seasons, so they are quite unique in that sense, and they need to be looked at not just from the tree cover point of view, because the strata is such, as you see, it's rocky, so you're not expected to have big trees in any case. Also, there are some species which are which make this habitat their home. I mean, you'll have lapwings nesting, you'll have nightjars here, and then there are, some of them you wouldn't find in a deep forest. So they are a unique habitat and need consideration.
Even for herps, this is a unique habitat, right? Yes. There's a large number of frogs which are found only here.
Absolutely, yeah. So you have the reddish burrowing frog, Minervaria sephi. And also, I think one of the flagship species, if you can call it that, is the saw-scaled viper.
Yes.
Yeah. So typically you would find it on a lateritic plateau.
Yes.
And again, we also from herping point of view, if you want to see a saw-scaled viper, you got to look for a plateau.
Yes.
You're not going to find it in the forest. Yeah.
Yes.
So how exactly do we go about herping on a plateau? By turning over rocks and looking for critters under them. Every single laterite rock around that we could lift. And almost every one of them had something or the other underneath, like burrowing frogs or scorpions. Scorpions emit a brilliant shade of blue under UV light. The exact reason for this is still unknown, but I've also seen dead scorpion exoskeletons glow. The saw-scaled viper wouldn't be much of a flagship if it showed up as soon as the first stone was unturned. So many a stone later, we eventually found it.
It's a viper, of course. And like most other vipers, is probably one of the most aggressive vipers that we have encountered. This fellow, tiny fellow, by looking at it, won't get scared, but the bite can be fatal. And I think a lot of bites do happen in the country. Called the saw scale because it's the scales have serrations, which when they rub against each other, they make a certain kind of sound, and that this snake uses to send a warning. Moves, rubs its body, the scales against each other, makes that threatening warning sound before it will strike, and it's got a very fast strike. Yeah, and I think most of the strikes, if if you observe closely, are again a threat. It's not really in terms of biting.
It also doesn't want to waste its venom, right? Venom is a very precious commodity for the snake. Also, it needs the venom to hunt, so it doesn't want to waste it to when it knows it's not a hunt.
True, I think that's the case for all snakes.
Correct.
An equally important part of herping in the plateau is to put the rocks back the way they were, so that the animals that were underneath can find a way back home. The space under these rocks are microhabitats, and we want to disrupt that as little as we possibly can.
We're now outside the plateau and on the trail that leads into the jungle. On this trail, I'm looking forward to seeing the hump-nosed pit viper, another beautiful pit viper. And interestingly, this is the northernmost part of its range. As I mentioned, This is the transition from the southern to the northern Western Ghats. So this is the tip of its territory, so to say. So it'll be really, really interesting to see one here. I've seen a few of them down south. I've seen them in Agumbe. I've seen them in Sharavati, but it'll be good to see one here. So here we are under the umbrella again. Almost forgot it was monsoon given how well the evening was going, but now it started pelting down. So yeah, we're going to be huddled up under the umbrella for a bit before heading out and looking for more snakes and frogs. Let's see.
It was almost dark when the rain stopped. We saw a dragonfly. We saw a couple of crane flies just emerge from their pupal cases. And interestingly enough, from the bark of a tree and not the soil, as I've read before.
So another group saw humped-nosed pit viper, which is what we came back here to see, and I think there's two other groups looking for it now. It's not there. Unlikely we'll find it. It's almost 8 p.m. Coming to the end of the night for us. Probably go back, get some dinner, and I've also been told of some very interesting photography opportunities that are back there. So looking forward to a longish night of photographing some very interesting subjects.
As soon as I finished recording this, a few things happened. One, my phone died. And two, we saw a hump-nosed pit viper.
Okay. I just found a cat snake.
Which one?
Kujore?
And three, we also saw a cat snake. It's one of the longest cat snakes I've seen. It soon climbed onto a plant and looked to get onto the canopy in typical cat snake manner. These snakes have vertical slit-shaped pupils that resemble those of a cat, giving them their name. I soon headed back to Jungle Trails, our homestay, which has a beautiful backstory.
When tourism had started picking up, the monsoon tourism, people were slowly exploring the hinterlands. And then what we saw was, in most of the cases, it was the city-based tour operators who would benefit out of it.
Yeah.
So much so that much of this tourism activity that was happening in the hinterlands wasn't benefiting the locals at all. So that is a time when we started getting into dialogues with the people, asking them whether why don't you create a model which will showcase how tourism can be done in a very responsible manner. This homestay story is interesting because this is a group of women with whom we had implemented a rural drinking water scheme, an independent scheme, independent of the PWD and independent of the panchayat, managed completely by the women in the village. One day we realized that there's this house in the village which is not occupied,
right?
Because the family had built another bigger house, in the neighborhood. So then casually one day we asked the women, are you interested in doing something about it? Why don't you already together, you are a very close knit group, doing some amazing stuff. So why don't we convert this into a small homestay and then let's operate it? And they were quite willing. So we set it up. So it's got 3 rooms and a recent addition, which is a tented platform. That was also the time when we had set up our own company called the Murugaya Expeditions, and so it kind of everything gelled together. This was 2016-17 when we set it up. Now it's going to complete 10 years. So
it's amazing, and it is a fabulous story. And the one thing you didn't mention about the homestay is that it is surrounded by all kinds of amazing wildlife. So
yes, we are bang on the outskirts of the Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary. So
exactly.
You don't really have to go anywhere. You just sit in the veranda and put your camera or your scope, and then it's done. 30-40 species in a couple of hours just by sitting in the veranda.
Amazing.
So,
Jungle trails in Tarde, a village so remote that Google Maps wouldn't show it up, is owned and run entirely by women.
मेरा नाम दिव्या गांवकर है और हमारे गांव का नाम तरडे है। वो हमारे गांव में पहले पानी का इशू था, इसीलिए हमें मिनरल फाउंडेशन ने बहुत हेल्प किया। उन्होंने हमें कुआं बना के दिया और सभी 16 घरों में पाइपलाइन पास किया और उसे मीटर भी बना के दिया। तो उन्होंने हमें और एक प्रोजेक्ट दिया, बोला कि होमस्टे का एक प्रोजेक्ट है, आप लोग कर सकते हो। तो हमने बोला हाँ हम कर सकते हैं। हम सब हमारे सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप की सब लेडीज़ मिलके हम ये अब काम चालू रखे हैं, क्योंकि हमारे गांव में बसेस नहीं है। हमें यहाँ से बाहर जाने के लिए भी कुछ ये नहीं है, प्रॉब्लम है, और हमें गाड़ी भी नहीं आती। इसलिए हमें एक अच्छा हुआ कि हमें यहीं पास में ही होम स्टे का प्रोजेक्ट मिला। हम पहले हमें जब सर बोलते हैं ना गेस्ट आने वाले हैं, तो हम सब मिलकर आते हैं, सब क्लीनिंग वगैरह करते हैं। और हमारा तो सामान हमें यहाँ कुछ पास में नहीं है, तो हम सब लिस्ट बना के बाहर से पहले से ही मंगवा के रखते हैं। और गेस्ट को कुछ चाहिए कुछ नहीं है, वो सब हम बारी बारी से देखते। अच्छा लगता है, सब मिलजुल के रहें, काम करते हैं। ऐसी और ख्वाहिश है कि और ज़्यादा गेस्ट आए और ज़्यादा गाँव ये वर्ल्ड में फेमस हो।
After dinner, we walked out in the rain to get to our aforementioned site.
So the really special subject that I spoke of earlier were these mushrooms. They are bioluminescent mushrooms and they glow a beautiful color of fluorescent green when it's absolutely dark. You can't make out now, and they look like any other mushrooms when there's light on them. But in the dark, they glow and they look stunning. I'm here to make some long exposure shots of these. I mean, you have to make long exposure shots to sort of show the bioluminescence. I might be making shots of maybe a minute, 2 minutes here. And for that to happen, I need the rain to stop, and it's raining right now. While my camera can handle this much rain, this is the one shot I can't make with rain because my camera is facing, rather my lens is facing up, and the raindrops are going to be falling right on it because that's the way I've set this shot up. But for what it's worth, the shot is set, the subject is there, and I just need the weather to hold for maybe 30 minutes so that I can make something of it. Really, really hoping that I'm able to make this count, fingers crossed, and praying that the rain stops in a bit.
Spoiler alert. Though I made some shots, I did not get the shots I hoped for. And I went back there again in a couple of weeks, just to photograph bioluminescence. That video is coming up next. In the meantime, here's another video from Goa last year featuring other frogs and snakes and some more bioluminescence.